Good morning. My name is John Crutchfield, and I'm the principal here at Franklin County High School. And I do want to welcome everyone to the Bonner Auditorium and the campus of Franklin County High School for what we as school administration have looked forward to since we did this last year. The second annual Hall of Fame induction for Franklin County High School is an exciting time for us. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time saying a lot of things other than this is one of our top events. This is something that we look forward to, mainly because we can merge the past and the present. If I'm not mistaken, we represent decades 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s here today. I'm a historian, and this is huge for the history of Franklin County High School. The people that we inducted last year to the Hall of Fame and the people that we're inducting today to the Hall of Fame have meant so much to our school and to our school community that it is so exciting for us to be able to honor them and to recognize them. And I want to thank the family and friends that are able to come out today and enjoy this moment or two with us. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our athletic director, Ms. Crystal Worley.
Good morning, everyone. As Mr. Crutchfield said, this is a truly big deal for Franklin County High School, not only the high school, but our community, our town, our entire county. So on behalf of the athletic department, I want to say a big welcome to all of you here. I'd like to also welcome their inductees, the family, our school board representatives, our representatives from the school division, and any other honored guests that are in attendance today. The only word that can come to mind when you see the accomplishments of the inductees sitting on the stage is wow. Wow to all the things that they accomplished in high school and in their careers and in college. What a great group we have to honor Franklin County High School today. Since I became the athletic director here, one of my favorite slogans is I'm Mama Eagle and this is the nest. And once you're in this nest, you're always going to be in this nest. I'd like to thank the following individuals who took the time and effort into developing the Athletic Hall of Fame. Those individuals are Mr. Petey Hambrick, Mr. John Crutchfield, Mr. Abe Naff, Mr. Benny Gibson, Mr. Alvin Hall, Mr. Les Hutchison, Mr. Brad Basham, Dr. Bernice Cobbs, and Mr. Joe Gann. When tasked to work through the logistics and fanfare of these ceremonies, all I could think in organizing this event is what can we do to honor all of the life accomplishments of these individuals. They have spent numerous hours in practices and events in representing Franklin County High School. They further moved on into college to be a huge representation of their individual academic institution, and many returned to our community to represent us here as members of our Franklin County community. This is truly a big deal. Our true focus in education is not only to educate children, but to inspire the children that attend school here each and every day that they have the power to dream big dreams. All we need to do is look on the stage to see the accomplishment of these individuals and know that by dreaming big dreams, we can truly achieve success in so many realms. There's no one sitting on this stage that thought at this juncture of their life they would be honored for the things that they chose to do. Each of them were born a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a niece, a nephew, a friend, an aunt, an uncle. At this point in time, as they grew and rose through high school and into college and into success as an adult, they truly left their mark on every community and every institution that graced their presence. Our vision when we established the Hall of Fame last year was to honor the memory and to honor individuals who made contributions to our athletic program as a coach, an athlete, and a contributor. One of the prime considerations was how these individuals moved past those realms and into their adult lives to represent themselves and Franklin County. If you look on the stage, there are people that have achieved high ideals, high marks in their community, and they continue to give and to shape the next generations that are moving forward in their community and in Franklin County. Today, we'll induct 7 members of the class of 2019. Following the induction ceremony, we will have a luncheon for guests of the inductees at the Pig River Community Center, and we'll conclude our festivities tonight at halftime of the varsity football game. Football kickoff is at 7 o'clock. You will have reserved seating at the 40-yard line, and we will call you down to the double gate near the Eagle statue to be represented at halftime. At this moment, I would just like to honor and remember our inaugural class of 2018. Those inductees were Mr. Dwayne Pee Wee Board, Mr. William G. Bill Davis, Mr. C.I. Dillon Jr., Mr. Benny Gibson, Mr. Alvin Hall, Mr. Ron Hodges, Mrs. Shelley Bowles Sloan, and Mr. Robert E. Ray. As the athletic director, we continue to stress the ideals of all of these Hall of Fame members for all of the hard work, passion, dedication, and servant leadership that they have exhibited through their lives and into their communities. At this moment, I would like just for our Hall of Fame members, our 7 inductees, as I call your name, if you would just stand in front of your chair. Our first inductee is Miss Ann Wright Crutchfield. Mr. Marshall L. Flora, Jr. Mr. Gary Gilly Gilmore. Mr. Andre L. Lavasi. Mr. John Abe Naff. Mr. Noel Price Pinkard. And Mr. Carlton DeMoss Price, Jr. At this time, our first inductee, Miss Ann Wright Crutchfield, will be introduced by her daughters, Haley, Emily, and unfortunately Maggie is not with us today, but she will be introduced by Haley and Emily.
Good morning. My name is Haley Crutchfield Bird, and this is my sister, Emily Crutchfield. We are so honored to be here today to introduce our mother, Ann Wright Crutchfield, to the Franklin County High School Sports Hall of Fame. Franklin County High School holds a special place in our family's heart. Emily and I, along with our youngest sister, Maggie, happen to be the 3rd generation in our family to attend Franklin County. Being an Eagle is something that we are very proud of as a family, and it makes our mother's induction into the Hall of Fame even more special. Our mother started her basketball career here at Franklin County High School in 1981 until 1985. She was a standout 3-year varsity athlete where she made the Roanoke Valley All-District team in 83, 84, and 85, and the Northwest Region All-Region team in 84 and 85. After graduating from Franklin County High School, she continued her basketball career as a 4-year letter winner at her beloved alma mater, Emory and Henry College, from 1985 to 1989. She was the first woman in Old Dominion Athletic Conference history to be a 4-year all-conference selection. As a junior, she led the Wasps to an 18-7 record and the 1988 ODAC championship. She is the only player in Emory and Henry women's basketball history to average more than 13 points a game in each of her 4 seasons. She concluded her playing career for the Wasp with a 1,262 points, which at the time was atop the all-time scoring list. After graduating from Emory and Henry College in 1989, she continued to work with young people on and off the basketball court. She has been heavily involved with USA Basketball, coaching for the Winston-Salem Steelers, a USA Basketball certified youth developmental program, and as an on-court coach for USA Basketball regional skills clinics. She also completed the WBCA's Center for Coaching Excellence program at Columbia University in 2015. She worked as the Ferrum College assistant coach from 1994 to 1995, where they had an NCAA Division III appearance, and spent 24 years teaching and coaching at Patrick Henry High School, Martinsville High School, and Franklin County High School, where she held the positions of mathematics teacher and guidance counselor in addition to her coaching positions.
As the head women's basketball coach here at Franklin County, she led the Eagles to win the Western Valley District Championship in 2009 and was ranked 5th in the state of Virginia 3A in 2009 and 6A in 2014. The Eagles were Western Valley District Tournament champions in 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012. She was awarded Western Valley District Coach of the Year in 2009 and Piedmont District Coach of the Year in 2013. She earned 100 career victories on January 23, 2012, breaking the high school record with 122 to 66. She earned 100 wins at Franklin County High School on January 7, 2013, breaking the record of 108 to 60. She coached 2 Western Valley District Player of the Year student athletes, 2 Virginia High School League All-State student athletes, 3 Virginia High School League Coaches Association All-Stars, and 10 players who played at the collegiate level. After her time here at her beloved Franklin County High School, Mom returned to Emory and Henry in 2014 as the head women's basketball coach, where she was inducted in 2000 as a member of the Emory and Henry College Sports Hall of Fame. She continued to meet exceptional coaching milestones at the collegiate level, where her coaching record was 98 to 40. She was awarded the Old Dominion Athletic Conference Coach of the Year and the Virginia Sports Information Directors College Co-Coach of the Year in 2018. She led the Wasp to be ODAC regular season champions and tournament runner-up in 2018. That same year, the Wasp continued on to play to the second round of the NCAA Division III tournament. Her teams made the top 10 of the NCAA South Region ranking from 2016 to 2019 and top 25 of the NCAA ranking in 2019. At Emory and Henry, she proudly coached 2 ODAC Rookie of the Year players in 2015 and 2016, a WBCA Honorable Mention All-American player in 2019, a D3 Hoops South Region Rookie of the Year in 2016, and a D3 Hoops All-Region player in 2018. She also coached the Virginia Sports Information Directors College Division State Rookie of the Year in 2016, All-State Second Team Player in 2018, and All-State First Team Player in 2019. She coached 8 ODAC All-Conference players as a Wasp. While coaching at Emory and Henry, Mom also worked as the Assistant Director of Athletics from 2016 to 2017 and the Interim Director of Athletics from 2017 to 2019. She currently serves as the Director of Athletics of Emory and Henry College, where she continues her passion for working with athletes and students as she oversees 22 collegiate teams comprised of 51 coaches and staff and over 400 student athletes. Haley and I, along with our sister Maggie, who couldn't be here with us today, are proud to introduce our mother, Ann Wright Crutchfield, as a 2019 inductee to the Franklin County High School Sports Hall of Fame.
Good morning. I'm not sure who they were talking about. It's a lot of history there when you hear it, and I appreciate them doing that. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the selection committee and the administration of Franklin County High School for this tremendous honor. To even be considered for the Hall of Fame is such a blessing, and to be included with this amazing group here today is just incredibly humbling. Certainly their accolades are quite impressive, and I'm just truly honored to be here with them today. I have so many people that I'd like to thank, and I certainly need to begin by thanking God for the many opportunities and blessings that He has given me. Some of my life's most meaningful and defining moments have transpired from the relationships that I've enjoyed through playing and coaching. No doubt God has used each one of those moments, the wins and the losses, the good days and the bad, the laughter and the tears, the successes and the struggles, to teach and shape me into the person that I am today. I would like to thank my parents who have always supported me on this journey. My mom and dad never missed a high school game and missed only 2 games in my entire college playing career. When I was 6 years old, Title IX provided young girls with more opportunities to play sports than ever before. And growing up at a time when girls' sports were not well supported or even encouraged, my parents advocated and fought, not only for me, but for my teammates so that we could have the same chance to play as our male friends. My mom has kept the scorebook for hundreds of games, and my dad has sold what seems like 1,000,000 50-50 raffle tickets. Over the last 30 years, whatever our kids needed, my mom and dad were always willing to help. Even last season, they were still making the road trips up and down I-81 to watch my teams play. I would also like to thank my family. Anyone who coaches will tell you that it takes a special person to be married to a coach. My husband, John, has constantly supported and encouraged me to pursue my coaching career, even when that meant him having to be Mr. Mom at home to 3 little girls, or driving to Halifax on a Tuesday night, or spending our anniversary just about every year at a basketball game, or even being okay with me living 2.5 hours away for the last 5 years just so I could chase a dream. When Emory and Henry reached out to me about the possibility of coaching basketball, his first response was, "That's your dream job. We just need to figure out how to make it work." At a time when people were asking me, why would you want to coach high school? Why would you want to coach college basketball? Why would you want to live in 2 places? Or why would you want to go back to grad school again? John's answer was always the same. Why would you not? Not many husbands would be willing to sacrifice everything that he has for me, and I appreciate him more than words can say. John, I hope you know how proud I am of you and the work you're doing here at Franklin County High School. It's easy to see that God is using you to change the lives of so many students and teachers. I can honestly say that the one thing better in life than being called coach is being called mom, and now grandma. My daughters, Haley, Emily, and Maggie, have shared their mom with hundreds of girls over the last 30 years. They not only went to high school with mom, but to college too. So it's safe to say that maybe they've had the toughest job of all. Their childhood was anything but traditional, but they always rolled with it. And I will never forget Maggie when she was in kindergarten telling me she knew when basketball season was over because we didn't eat dinner out of a bag anymore. Haley, Emily, and Maggie spent their family time in the gym, working camps, filling water bottles, chasing rebounds, keeping shot charts, you name it, they've done it. And I am beyond blessed to be your mom, and I'm exceedingly proud of the incredible young women you have become. As a player, I had the amazing opportunity to play with so many talented young women. And though I'm being recognized here today, I have to accept this honor on behalf of the great teammates I had when I was here at Franklin County and also at Emory and Henry. In high school, I had the pleasure of playing for Coach Calvin Preston and Coach Keith Hubbard, who not only taught me the skills I needed to be a pretty good basketball player, but also taught me the fine arts of pitching pennies, playing poker, and singing Jimmy Buffett songs. Seriously, though, they taught me that great coaches teach, challenge, and impact the players far beyond the court. And when I started coaching at Franklin County, Coach Preston and Coach Hubbard were right there to help me and do what they do best: teach, challenge, and impact lives of young women. I would also like to thank my college coach, Joy Scruggs, who coached at Emory and Henry for 27 years. She taught me what it meant to be a servant leader. I often say that I'm not a lot of good things, but the good things I am are because of her. She is my coach, my mentor, my friend, and I will never be able to thank her for all that she has done and continues to do for me every day. This past summer, one of my former teammates and close friend lost a son in a tragic car accident. It was a tragedy in every sense of the word, but it came to no surprise that every one of our Emory and Henry teammates came from all parts of the country to attend the memorial service and to share in their grief. I was reminded that day that even after 30 years, a teammate is a teammate for life, and sports is about something much bigger than the game. Finally, I'd like to thank the wonderful young women that I have been blessed to coach over the years. I've learned something from each one of them, and I hope when they look back on their experience as a student athlete, they can have as many wonderful memories as I do. Again, I'm honored to be included in this year's Hall of Fame induction. Thank you to the committee, and congratulations to my fellow inductees. I appreciate this recognition more than I can say, and just as a teammate is a teammate for life, Franklin County will always be home, and Franklin County High School will always hold a special place in my heart. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our second Hall of Fame inductee, Marshall L. Flora Jr., who will be introduced by Mr. Lynn Myers.
School board members, high school administration, inductees, and guests. It is an honor to be here today to introduce Marshall L. Flora Jr. for the Franklin County High School Athletic Hall of Fame. What you will hear this morning will be a combination of documented facts and oral history. Documented facts and oral history. Sometimes there's a little difference. The request is made, if you have facts that contradict the oral history, keep them to yourself. Marshall's life and athletic career have been marked by two characteristics: grit and determination. Even when his son Adam was making a name for himself in high school wrestling, going to the regionals, and as a team member going to the state matches, Marshall would brag about Adam, but he would always end the conversation with, "I can still take him." For those of you who remember the education system in Franklin County in the middle part of the last century, you know that the schools outside the town continued through the 9th grade. Marshall was at Boone's Mill Elementary, and he finished the 9th grade there. And when he came to the high school, he wanted to get into organized football. But he felt he was always 2 years behind because the guys in town had come to the high school in the 8th grade. He was quoted, after he became a hero, they started writing newspaper articles about him. He was quoted in October 22nd, 1970 Roanoke Times article as saying he only played cow pasture ball until the 10th grade. But in the 10th grade, he came to the high school. And all of you who are athletes know that before you can go on the field of play, you have to go through a physical examination. And all of you male students remember the exercise of dropping your drawers, turning your head, and coughing. At that point, the doctor directed Marshall to the hospital for surgical repair, not to the practice field. So there again, he felt that he was losing time. Oral history, he claims that his first stop on leaving the hospital was to go to the locker room to get his uniform and pads. Maybe. The same Roanoke Times article said that the first time he put on his shoulder pads, he put them on backwards. So get this picture. 5'5", 135 pounds, right off the operating table, shoulder pads on backwards. Can you imagine why his coach said, "Are you sure you want to do this? This is a mighty tough sport." Being unaware that one person was going to be here this morning who is here, another story was added, and I can't delete it, but I won't use the name of the person who I'm talking about, David Lynch. David was a offensive lineman when Marshall was a running back at the high school, and David had this habit of coming out of the huddle and going to the line of scrimmage and saying to the defensive lineman, "We're going to give a ball to Flora. He's going to come right up through here, and you're not going to stop him." And that proved to be true. David wasn't fooling anybody. By the time he was a senior, just a few years out of cow pasture ball, Marshall was the co-captain of the high school team, had been elected Mr. Football, and was all Piedmont district. In his senior year, he was the district scoring leader. Marshall also ran track in high school. Oral history is, and there's probably a record somewhere that we couldn't find, that his mile relay team went to the state meet. Yeah, it's been a half century ago, so we'll believe it today. In his senior year, he thought spring was going to be kind of dull, so he decided to play baseball. It's the first year that he went out for the baseball team. One day he was on first base and somebody had the good idea he ought to steal second, so he did. He slid into second base and broke his ankle. Here he was, a couple months before going on to college ball, which was really his goal, and he was being helped off the field with a broken ankle. But with grit and determination, he knew he would rehab and be ready for practice. So he reports to Bridgewater College. He's still 5'5", but he has put on a few pounds. Excuse me. And he knew that ankle was fine, in good shape, and in the first week of practice, he sprained that ankle and was on crutches again. So that delayed him getting into practice. But he had the grit and determination. He knew he was going to do it. So as a freshman in practice, he was working with the second team offense against the first team defense. And the goal of some of this particular drill was for this linebacker to get to the quarterback. The coach was unhappy about how slow he had been about getting to the quarterback. This was a senior. Marshall was a freshman. Marshall knew it was going to be his job to stop this guy. And he wondered, how's that going to go over with the seniors if I embarrass this guy? Because Marshall knew he wasn't going to get to the quarterback. So they run the play. Here the linebacker comes slamming through, hits Marshall, and stands straight up. Never gets close. Coach starts screaming and hollering and waving his arms. Do it again. Same result. Hits Marshall, gets stood straight up. Well, the coach is a little irate. We're going to do it one more time. The linebacker comes through. This time Marshall goes low, picks his feet up, flips him in the air, and he lands on his back. Coach just decided to go on to a new drill. But that's the sequence of events that Marshall identifies as the time that the coaches at Bridgewater College recognized his abilities. And by the end of the freshman year, he had been moved into the tailback position on the first team. A senior who was the tailback, who was pretty good because he had been named All-State the year before that, was moved into the fullback position to block for this little 5'5" guy from Boone's Mill, Virginia, who just a few years ago was playing cow pasture ball. And after Marshall got on the field, the rest is history. He was all Mason-Dixon Conference for 3 years. The most valuable player in the Mason-Dixon Conference his senior year. The Mason-Dixon Conference was the predecessor of the ODAC. He was honorable mention All-American his junior year. He was third team All-American his senior year. I need to say something about that. There's going to be a trophy placed over here in the gym in the trophy case that says Associated Press, Marshall L. Floor Jr., All-American. It doesn't say honorable mention or third team. It's All-American. That's what we go by now. In his senior year, Marshall was selected as the Small College Player of the Year in Virginia by the Richmond Touchdown Club. He led the nation in rushing in 1970 with 1,536 yards in the college division. In those days, it was the university division for the big schools and the college divisions for the small schools. Don McCauley from the University of North Carolina led the university division with 1,720 yards. But Marshall wants you to know that in the college division, he played 9 games. And in the university division, Don McCauley played 12 games. And Marshall has no question, if he had had 3 more games, he would have led both divisions in rushing. That's a national accomplishment. But one of the things that Marshall treasures most is a comment made by Hank Norton, who said that Marshall was the best small football player he had ever seen. He didn't say small college, he said small. Marshall was asked, you know, there's a lot of discussion now about concussions, how many, and all that's going on about that, and it's serious discussion. Marshall was asked if he ever had a concussion in all his football playing days, and he said he wasn't sure. But one time there was a particularly hard hit at the end of a play, and he kind of rolled over and got up and trotted back to the huddle. In a few seconds, he realized he was in the wrong huddle, and the defensive team had to lead him back to where he was supposed to be, but he wasn't sure if he ever had a concussion or not. No detailing of Marshall's career could be complete without telling the story of the last game he played for Bridgewater College. It was against Newport News shipbuilders. The shipbuilders went to school to learn to build ships. They were a tough bunch. Marshall said when you went to the line of scrimmage, it looked like men against boys. They didn't have sociology majors and accountants and pre-med majors. They were shipbuilders. So at the last game of the season in his college career, Bridgewater was on the field warming up. He was probably in the end zone shagging punts. And the shipbuilders came on the field. They didn't come out with bands playing and smoke flying and bombs going off. They were marched in a straight line, and they went right by Marshall Floral. And every one of them had a comment. I'm going to rip your head off. You're not going to gain that yardage today. This is going to be different for you. And my guess is a few even used words that Marshall's mother wouldn't appreciate. But they had no idea what they were doing. They thought they were going to scare him. He knew he was going to have to show them. The last time Marshall touched the football in a Bridgewater College uniform, he scampered 35 yards for a touchdown. That day, he gained 294 yards, scored 3 touchdowns in a 28-0 Bridgewater victory. They just didn't understand grit and determination. Marshall returned to Franklin County school system for his entire professional career. I'm going to add this. Marshall did a little bit of coaching. He didn't stay in it very long, but he did a little bit of coaching of football. And if I'm not mistaken, there are 2 inductees up here today who played football under Marshall. The interesting thing is they're being inducted for baseball, not football. But Marshall received his master's degree from Radford University His job in Franklin County was a visiting teacher, which I think was a nice way of saying truant officer. He became the director of special education and was again recognized on a state level as the outstanding special education director in the state of Virginia, and was also elected president of the Virginia Special Education Directors. He's now retired to his family farm, which has been in the family since the mid-1700s. Oral history is that the King of England gave the family the land, but Marshall can't prove it. But he loves that farm. He now, after many years of working in special education and all the things that go with that, he now talks to his cows and they never talk back. We'll let you know when they start doing that. Again, it is an honor to introduce Marshall L. Flora Jr. for induction into the Franklin County High School Athletic Hall of Fame. But if there is ever a Hall of Fame for integrity, dignity, and honesty, he will be at the head of the class. Marshall L. Flora Jr., All-American.
Can you see me over this podium? Lynn really helped me out a little bit. He said 5'5". Actually, it's 5'4", but most of the programs listed me as 5'5". As you can see, I can hardly see you folks right down here. My wife's in the front row, but if I stand on my tiptoes, I think I can see her. I could see right away when Lynn started talking, I think I made a mistake by asking him to be my introducer. I was actually pretty surprised that he was able to remember a lot of those stories, most of which only he has heard. Even my family hadn't heard. But for the last 10 years, we've both been retired, and we try to get together for coffee once a week, and that's where he picked up most of that. Most of it was accurate. But it's getting old, and in old age, it has its positive things, though we can tell those stories week after week or year after year, and by the next week, we don't remember them. It's like hearing them all over again new for the first time. We always start out, did I tell you this? And the other one say, no, I don't think so, but about halfway through it starts sounding familiar. But Lynn has been a true friend throughout my whole life. We came through this county together. We started out in church league softball. We still have talk about a controversial call where his church beat our church in a play at home plate, but we won't get into that today. But we went through high school together. I followed him to Bridgewater College. He was a year ahead of me. And we went through Bridgewater together. I remember one summer, we worked together here at the Franklin County Rec Department. We umpired over 200 Little League baseball games and quickly became the most disliked people in the county, I think, after that summer. But he's been a lifelong friend, and friends come and go, you know, from different parts of your life, but and often they're here a while and gone next, but he's one that has been there my whole life, and I hope to see you next week. I'll bring you money, if I can remember it, for coffee. I'd like to thank some other people, and in particular, I would, like the rest of the folks, thank Franklin County Schools and the administration here and for what they have done in putting this program together. I'd like to thank the selection committee and what they've done in organizing this thing and getting it off the ground. And even though I had to buy a new suit and make a speech and get off the farm and get out in public again, I think it's going to be all worth it if I can get through this next 5 or 10 minutes. I'd like to recognize my family. My wife of 7 years, first and foremost, I want her to know that you're the reason I get up every morning and enjoy it, and I'm so glad you're in my life. Thank you for being here. My children, most of which are here today, some are coming in, will be here tonight for the game. They need to know, too, that I'm proud of them. I have a son and a daughter, and after a second marriage, I now have 2 new wonderful daughters, a daughter-in-law and a son-in-law, all of which I'm proud of. And you need to know you're great citizens, and more importantly, you're good people, and you get along. That's always good. So thank you for supporting me and being here today. I have 2 or 3 grandchildren. They were sitting in the back and making a racket. I don't know whether they're still in the house or not. Oh, I see them. They're waving in the back. They running around in the back. Future ball players, I think. They can't sit still. But I thank you all for being here. A few years ago, now it's probably many years ago, a book came out, It Takes a Village. I don't know, you may recall, and maybe a couple of books came out, but the theory was that a child is raised by a community, and it takes a village to raise a child. And at first I didn't think about that much, but then here lately and more late in life, I've realized that that's true. We are a product of our environment. We are shaped by the people we come in contact with and the way people react to us, and that could be good or bad. But in this community, I want to thank this community for doing what it's done for me and shaping me. There are a couple people I'd like to mention my name, and one is my dad, Marshall Floor Sr., and a lot of you, if you're in the county, knew him. He was started out as a dairy farmer. I grew up on a dairy farm. As Lynn mentions, a family farm, and to make ends meet, he started building houses. He didn't have enough to do, I guess, but he taught me the importance of hard work. I watched him get up before dawn and not get in till dark, day after day. When he was 42, one of the scaffolds broke when he was building the house, and he fell, and the next day he found himself in the hospital, no feeling in his legs, could not move them, and the doctors say he was paralyzed and would never walk again. That incident could be a tragedy to most families if you could get bitter and depressed and just give up on life. And at the time, I don't think I really realized what he was dealing with or what he was going through. I could see now that he had a farm that was going to have to get rid of, cattle anyway. House was half built, and what are you going to do with that? He was the sole breadwinner, and he had a daughter who was going to college in a year or so, and I was heading to high school, and another younger daughter who was coming along. I can't imagine really what was happening to him, but I didn't realize that. I walked in the hospital room, and he had a smile on his face, and he started asking me how things were going, what I was doing, and he never showed how he felt, if that's, how he dealt with it. And if you knew him here in the community, you would see him as very positive and upbeat, always had a joke to go and something to tell to keep you smiling. But he also, in addition to hard work, he showed me how to overcome tragedy and to not give up. And if somebody said you can't do it, that don't necessarily mean it's true. Because I saw him overcome, and in a few years, he pushed himself to start walking. Slowly. Got rid of a walker and started on a cane. And I remember he got my uncle, who was a welder, to build this homemade gadget that he put on his steering wheel for a car. I remember he put a bicycle grip on the end of it. I can see it now. Push it in for the gas and you pull it back for the brake. And he started driving, and he drove around the county, and I'm pretty sure the DMV didn't approve that gadget that he had on his car, nor did they approve of him driving around with no feeling or use of his legs. But I watched him, and he shaped me, whether I knew it or not. There was a time when I felt like, as Lynn told, the glory days of football, that I was the man. I overcame and I did these things on my own self-will, but as I started looking around and thinking about that, no, there's people here that shaped me and guided me and molded me. And he was one of those people. Another person that I'd like to mention by name was my Coach Richard Fouts. First organized, as Lynn mentioned, football coach that I knew. Played a little church league softball. My dad was a coach, so he scared me to death. Lynn was right. I got pretty much out of the hospital bed, but the doctor did clear me. It was a hernia operation, in case y'all were curious about what he never did say. But I remember, I think it was stretching it a little bit that I got out of the bed and came to the school, but I remember after school one day, after the doctors cleared me, I went down and approached him, and I couldn't hardly look him in the face. If you knew Richard Fouts, he was hard as steel. But he did look, he made me look him in the eye. In fact, he got down, he was about a foot taller than me, and he put his hands on his knees and looked me in the eye, and he did say, "Son, are you sure you know what you're doing?" And Lynn's right, I was about 138 pounds, that's 3 pounds bigger than you said, wore glasses, and I hadn't put a uniform on, I didn't know how to get it on. But he threw it in the floor, which in itself was amazing if you think about it. And I didn't at the time. I was naive and just thought you could come out in the middle of the season. Has anybody ever seen a player that's gone to a coach and he's let you come out at the middle of the season? I went back and was his assistant and coach for 7 years, and I can't remember a single time that we allowed a student to come out in the middle of a season. In fact, it was a pretty hard and fast rule. If you didn't come out for summer practice, you didn't come out. I don't know whether it was, I wish that I had asked him. Richard's no longer with us, and I wish later that I'd asked him what caused him to let me come out for football, because if he had not, I may never have played football. But after he told me, "Son, this is a rough game," he went on for the remainder of that season and for 2 more years showing me just how tough it was. I wanted to quit after the first day. But I was too scared to go up and face him. I was too ashamed to go home and see what my dad was dealing with and trying to get out of the hospital to say that this is too tough, that I want to quit. So because of those 2 men, I stuck it out. Richard came through in the 60s, and he was a hard-nosed football player. He came through the program with Hank Norton and Rick Tolley, and they had notorious, if you were around the county, notorious brutal practices. And that was the time that he had national championship teams. And that was the kind of football that Richard Fouts knew. And a small group of us were lucky enough to catch him the first year he was coaching as a JV coach, and that's all he knew. I don't think I learned to play that first season. All I knew was hitting drills and conditioning drills. It was hard-nosed football, and things that were being done there that I know as I came along, coaches can't do today what they were doing then. As I remember, that JV team started out with 28 to 30, and by the time I got out there was 15. But you know, the 15 that stayed with him by the time we were seniors, and I see a couple of them sitting out here in the audience today, he led us to the best season this school had ever seen, 7-2-1. It still ranks at the top end of the most wins that Franklin County football team has had. But he taught us, and I say us for not only me, but what we got for him was what I call mental toughness. He did not have 5-star athletes, and I can verify that with a couple of guys that are here with me. Our linebacking core, we had 4 linebackers. I think he was the same as Hank Norton's group, but we weren't quite as big. We averaged 145 pounds to 155 pounds, 4 of us. I see one Charlie Hunt sitting over here and David Lynch sitting back here were 2 of them, and I was on one end, and David Groover was the smallest. He was about 145, the fourth one. So what he told us, though, and what we learned from him, he said it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but it's the size of the fight in the dog. Now, I'm not sure my daughter would say that's politically appropriate today, but anyway, when we went on the field, we didn't look at size, and we had no fear when we walked on the field. And Lynn gave a good example of David Lynch sitting out here, would point back to me, and he was probably outweighed by 50 or 100 pounds by the defensive tackle, and tell him exactly, he'd have him raving mad before I'd get the ball, and then hand me the ball and say, go after it. But he did exactly that, and we did that repeatedly over a number of times over the season. I don't recall ever being stopped. Now, David, that tells me he was a little bit crazy there, but also it tells me that he had a mental toughness and a positive attitude that was gained, that this whole team had, that we got from Richard Fouts, that you could do more than you think you can. And I walked on a football field after that with no fear and not intimidated by any player on the other team throughout my college career, thanks to Richard Fouts. There are other people, and I'm not going to mention because of time, but this community has encouraged me and shaped me, just like the book said. I can recall returning football players hanging on the sidelines, and some of them here, and patting you on the back. I remember in particular the summer before I went to Bridgewater, I was sitting in the dentist chair at Boone's Mill, and I was a little bit, doubt starts creeping in your mind. I said, I've been told I'm not big enough to play college ball, and I was having some questions about, it's bigger and faster, and whether something I'd be able to do. But the dentist in the dentist chair that summer said, you're going to be great down there. I'm going to follow you. You're going to tear up that league. Throughout my time here in this county, different people have said the right thing at the right time that have lifted me and carried me. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I remember I was walking standing in line at a fast food place here in Rocky Mount, and somebody tapped me on the shoulder, turned around, and he said, "Are you bowling ball?" I said, "Well, at one time I was, yeah." He was old and had white hair as white as mine. And he said, "I remember the night we went over and played Cave Spring. I put on my bib overalls, and I was sitting in the top row of the bleachers, and I saw you take a kickoff right down the middle and break it off for the sideline in front of our bench and took it to the house. I'll never forget it." Well, I had forgotten it till he reminded me. But even today, at 70 years old, I have people in this community who continue to pick me up and lift me, and I'll forever be thankful for that. In closing, I'd like to say that I try, I don't know that I do it every day, to thank the good Lord every morning for placing me in this community, for surrounding me with the right people at the right time, saying the right thing that caused me, a 138-pound kid that couldn't look a coach in the eye, that within a few short years later was able to lead the nation in rushing yardage. It's a story that even Lynn Myers is kind of hard to make up. It's a story that's still unbelievable to me, and I owe it all to this community, and I thank you very much.
Our third Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Gary "Gilly" Gilmore, will be introduced by Mr. Les Hutchinson.
Good morning. I am blessed and honored to present Gary Gilmore, known as Gilly to many of us, for induction into the Franklin County High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Before I introduce Gary, let me acknowledge the other inductees today and congratulate them on this honor. I also want to acknowledge 3 of these inductees for which I have a personal connection. Ann Crutchfield has been a friend of my wife and myself for many years, and we are proud of her accomplishments here as an Eagle and at Emory and Henry College. Marshall Floor was my coach when I played football at Franklin County High School, and I want to acknowledge him as well. Lastly, Abe Naff, a lifelong friend, a former teammate on the football and baseball teams here at Franklin County. Congratulations to you 3 and to all the other inductees. Gary Gilmore, Gilly. We have been friends since the days of kindergarten. I was thinking about that the other day, and it adds up to over 20,000 days of friendship, of being brothers from different mothers. My first memory of Gary, and the only story I will tell in this setting, is from our kindergarten days. We were learning words, and Gary used the word ship. I immediately thought he had said another word that began with S. At the end of the day, I went straight home and told my parents what I thought he had said. They punished me like no other punishment I've ever had. In today's world, only an umpire can tell you if Gary uses any S words. From there, we went on to spend many, many days of friendship on and off the fields and courts of Franklin County. And all that time, I do not recall a single serious argument or fight between us, and our friendship continues to this day, strong as ever. Today with us are his wife, Kathy, she's seated down here, his sister, Sylvia Parcell, and her husband, Buddy Parcell. Unable to be here today are his son, Chance, his daughter, Samantha, his 2 grandsons, Liam and Hank, and a 3rd grandson is on the way. While at Franklin County, Gilly lettered in football, baseball, and basketball. He was a second-team All-Metro quarterback in 1973. That year, the Eagles finished second in our district to the eventual state champion. In 1976, he led our baseball team and was selected as a Metro Player of the Year. As a pitcher, he had a 0.78 earned run average for the year, along with a batting average of .313. He was the first representative for Franklin County in the Virginia High School League Baseball All-Star Game. Gary attended East Tennessee State, Ferrum College, and Coastal Carolina. While at Coastal Carolina in 1979, he batted .371 with 4 home runs and 32 stolen bases in 32 attempts. In 1980, he hit .386 with 7 home runs and 34 stolen bases. After graduation in 1980, he played professionally in the Philadelphia Phillies organization. After his playing days, he became a scout for the Seattle Mariners and Cleveland Indians. In 1986, he went into coaching and became the head coach at USC Aiken in 1990. He coached there for 5 seasons and reached the NCAA Division II World Series in 1993, made 2 NCAA Division II tournament appearances, won a regular season championship, and 2 conference tournament championships. Coastal Carolina hired him to be their head coach prior to the 1996 season. In 2016, he was named the Division I National Coach of the Year by the American Baseball Coaches Association, Collegiate Baseball, National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association, D1 Baseball, Hero Sports, and Perfect Games/Rollins. Gary led Coastal Carolina to victory in the 2016 NCAA Division World Series, where they were crowned national champions after defeating Arizona in the finals. He's a 2-time ABCA Atlantic Region Coach of the Year, a 9-time Big South Coach of the Year, and was voted the Sun Belt Conference Coach of the Year in 2018. He has led Coastal to 16 NCAA Division I regional appearances, 3 super regionals, 12 regular season conference titles, and 13 conference tournament titles since taking over at his alma mater. In 30 seasons as a head coach at the collegiate level, he has posted a record of 1,216 wins, 604 losses, and 4 ties. His record at Coastal in 24 years is 963 wins, 502 losses, and 2 ties. His 1,216 career wins ranked 25th among all-time coaches in NCAA Division I baseball, and he is 6th among all active NCAA Division I coaches entering the 2020 season. He has recorded the 6th most wins in the NCAA since 2001 with 842 victories. Gary has had 85 players drafted and 114 players signed professional contracts. Gary is a member of the Ferrum College Hall of Fame, the University of South Carolina Aiken Hall of Fame, and the Salem Roanoke Baseball Hall of Fame. There are 2 things I know at this moment. Gary is not a man of self-promotion, and I have embarrassed him by mentioning all these accomplishments and honors. But the other thing I know is that Gary is very deserving of this Franklin County High School honor today. It is my pleasure to present Gary Gilly Gilmore for induction into the Franklin County High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
First off, I'd like to thank my sister and her husband, Buddy Parcell. Buddy, you taught here for a while. How many years? 3 years, you know. So I appreciate y'all taking the time to come. I know you had to make some sacrifices to do it, and really appreciate it. To my wife, there are times when she would tell you I'm probably needed to be tested for being a bipolar person, based on whether we win or lose. And you know, she's hung in there with me, and you know, I would never have made it in life without her. She's an incredible person, and you know, we celebrated her 60th birthday last night. It was earlier in the year, and all of our kids, her and I both like Chris Stapleton. And so I actually was at a concert last night, and we had to get up. We had a 5 a.m. flight this morning to get here because the kids didn't know about this, and they got us tickets to go to it. And I'm sitting there listening to him sing the song he has, Parachute. And if you've never heard it, please listen to it. It's really a cool song. And my wife is the most incredible parachute any husband could ever have. And you know, I thank her very much for that. Les Hutchison and Danita, I can't thank you for your friendship enough. Les, the words you said about our friendship over the lifetime, absolutely incredible. You know, and thank God he doesn't go into detail with all the stories, you know, because That was the first thing my wife, we took the left down here where, see how, this is how long it's been. These are the things I remember. I remember Buddy Burger being right over there, okay? All right? So I told Les when he was telling me how to get in the parking lot, I said, is that the left right there by where Buddy Burger used to be? He said, yeah, that's it. So I said, I can find it then. But, they're at almost every game, every weekend down at Coastal. It's for me, it's such a comforting thing to see their smiling faces. And, Les, man, he every game, he's right there in it emotionally. He's as exhausted as I am by the time the game's over with. So, and he's the worst dude on the umpires ever. He really is. I can't thank you enough for all the things you've done, your friendship, everything. Coach Flora, I have to say that this is truly an honor to be inducted with you and the rest of these fine people, Abe that I played with, and all the rest of the inductees, but you especially, I have to address that I know I left a lot to be desired when you coached me. I know there was a lot more in there. I didn't realize I ran you out of football. Me and Les just, we just put you into retirement. Is that what it was? Holy cow. That guy, I'm telling you what, he was a completely inspirational person to play for. The most fun I ever had playing football, Coach, was the last game. We actually lost the game, but it was the most fun I ever had. He did something that now is commonplace in football. He took our offense and what was traditionally two-back set, I-back, full-back, tailback, he spread it all out. We went to 4 wide receivers, left me in the backfield by myself, and the line blocked, and we almost beat the state champion. It was a great game. They had a tailback that was unbelievable. We couldn't quite handle, but it was one of the most fun games I've ever played in my life. Most fun I think I ever had playing football. I just want to thank the committee, thank everyone involved in this. This is truly an honor and inspiration for me. I don't get to come back to home all that much anymore. My parents moved with my sister up to Richmond, and both of them have passed away. And I used to come up every year to go to the Commonwealth Games, and that has kind of gone away with some of the things that I have to do. But it's amazing driving from the airport here in Roanoke, just how many things have changed. How crazy all of it is now compared to what I remember it being like. I really wanted what I wanted to talk about. I'm not a big write it down on a piece of paper guy, kind of speak from the heart. And I listened to what Marshall said, and he's got it. It's the thing that I'm so proud about. I tell everybody where I'm from, where I grew up, how proud I am of where I grew up. The culture here helped make me who I am. I had incredible parents. Best coach I ever played for was my father. So much of the philosophies and the things that make me who I am today, I learned from him. He was unbelievable, fairly quiet, very solemn person. I honestly think all my competitiveness I got from my mother. She was, even though she wasn't a sports person, she was very competitive. And but my dad was the ultimate coach. And being here today doesn't seem fitting that they're not here, because they were very much entwined in this culture of Franklin County and Rocky Mount and everything involved in that. And I just, I still remember the last out of the College World Series, and I just got completely overwhelmed by the moment, because just wasn't right that my dad wasn't there. all the things we had shared together. And they all started here. Abe Naff was probably the best catcher I ever threw to in my life. One of the best catchers. I mean, that guy was unbelievable, incredible. And Alvin Hall, sitting beside him, has done as much for the promotion of all sports, but especially baseball, anywhere from T-ball all the way through high school and even at Ferrum College. He spent his entire life here being that person. My dad was like that for so many years too, involved in the booster club here and out at Ferrum. And you know, I grew up around you know, the Ferrum football program, ball boy on the weekends. You know, it was an incredible way to grow up. But every day I go to work, part of Franklin County is with me every day. People always ask me, they said, "You guys do things differently. There's a different feel here. There's a different thing going on at Coastal Carolina in that program." Where's that come from? It comes from right here. It comes from my home. It comes from people that have affected me in my life and have influenced me in my life, and so much of that came from here. I spent way too much of my lifetime thinking that Franklin County and Rocky Mount were too little for me, and I wanted bigger and things and wanted to do this and that. It wasn't until I actually matured enough in my life to realize how really important this place was, how much it shaped me and who I am and what I am. And every kid that plays for me takes a little bit of this community with them because it's who we are. My faith has grown incredibly big over the years, and I know God has thrown roadblocks in on me here and there, you know, gave me challenges. Sometimes I didn't think I could get through them, but through friends like Les and a wife like Kathy, you know, I've been able to stay the course, you know, and at one of the least probably expected times in my life, He allowed me to chase the thing that I had chased all my life and actually achieve it. Something no one thought could ever be done at a school the size of the one I'm at Coastal Carolina. Because I know how big a part he had in that. And again, I just can't thank everyone enough for the things that have been done for me in this county and for what has come out of it and the influences that several of the people that I personally have had that influenced me to be on this stage today. You know, I mean, honestly, I mean, Abe Naff's a dear, dear friend. I have such incredible respect for him and what he achieved in his career. You know, I mean, you know, it's kind of crazy. You know, we struggled a little bit in football and other things when we played here. Kind of crazy to know that, you know, two Hall of Fame baseball coaches came out of this place at the same time. I mean, it's really a neat thing, you know. But he loved the game like I did. You know, it was an incredible game. I'll share a couple things with you. I don't know how any of you in here actually watched 3-4 years ago when we won a national championship. Some people in here. All right. Well, you'll appreciate this then. Like I said, as my faith has grown, it's amazing. If I could ever encourage you, I'm the world's worst at reading books. It takes a lot to get me to read a book. You know, with Audible books now, I'll do a lot more of that than I do reading. But back in that year, I read a book. I had a friend turn me on to a book. He goes, "Coach, you got to read this book. You need to read this book. This book will change your life." I'm like, The book sat over there for 6 months, and I never read it. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, for whatever reason, I finally read it. My wife's sitting there in the bed one night, and she's reading the Bible. I'm reading this book. And she looks over at me, She just haphazardly kind of looked up from the Bible after we'd been at it about 30 minutes. She looked over and my whole shirt is just completely drenched from the tears running down my face. Because there was a character in that book that was me. He was a coach, and he had forgotten what it really meant to be a coach. It wasn't about all winning and losing. What most important was the message you gave to your players, and that you open your heart to your players and let them know you love them, and you'll get what you're looking for out of them. I'd waited too long, measured success and failure by wins and losses, not by relationships. So I'm reading this book. The 2016 team, they come in the fall. I read it a second time right before they got to school. Our first team meeting, I'll never forget, had an older team. I walked around the locker room. At the end of my message with all things we had to do, I went over to each guy, shook their hand, and told them I love them. And they were like, who in the hell is this guy? This guy, huh? Because I had a lot of Dick Fouts in me. You know, I was tough, man. You know, and so I'll never forget. I convinced them. We read that book together as a team. I'll never forget. I convinced them that this was the right way to go about things. And it was really cool because every time I would pass them somewhere on campus, I'd walk out to practice and they're going from one place to another. Every conversation I ended with, hey Z, man, I love you, brother. I love you, Mo. Very, very quickly, they started saying it back to me. And within a month, it was rampant everywhere in our locker room. Out on campus, I would watch them and listen to them. They would pass each other in the middle of campus, and they would have an exchange, love you. They would start saying it to each other. It's the coolest thing I'd ever been a part of. I think when I grew up, if you thought of men telling each other they loved you, you thought you were something weird or wrong with you, you know? But it's really a cool thing. It really is. I never thought I would do something like that, to be honest with you. This book got me to do it. Well, throughout the season, we had our ups and downs. We finally find a way to win in the regional at NC State, and we go to LSU. We put a butt whooping on them first day. The second day we come out, we got a 2-1 lead going into the top of the ninth. They're the visitors. They flip-flop us after the first game. You know, my dream had been all my life I never one time talked about winning a national championship. I wanted to go to Omaha. That was my dream and goal in life. As a professional, as a coach, go to Omaha. We were one game away. We're ahead 2-1 and top of the ninth, and lo and behold, one of my best players had just gotten hurt, and I had to put a freshman at second base who he actually had started for us at the beginning of the year, but played himself out of playing because basically he was a freshman. He's a talented young man, but I had to put him at second base in front of 18,000 screaming, alcoholic, liquored up Cajuns. All right? Well, I'm telling you, the whole stadium's vibrating. So, I mean, it's all concrete and everything in the dugout, and I'm telling you, the concrete is vibrating. It's so crazy. Well, lo and behold, what happens? First pitch we throw, 3-hop routine. You couldn't draw it up no better than that. 1, 2, 3, catch it, throw him out. We got one down. We're 2 outs away from Omaha. Doesn't happen that way. That glove got real stiff. And the thing hit here and laid there, and he couldn't pick it up. So, man's at first. Now my pitcher freaks out. Coach Nav knows this. Hey, 4 pitches later, there's a man at first and second. Oh, yeah. And then they have the fastest kid in the country who's a left-handed hitter, lays down a bunt that humanly impossible to defend. Got bases loaded and nobody out, and we got a 1-run lead. You're just sitting there in the dugout going. Within like a minute, this thing went from we're 3 outs away from Omaha to going, oh, hell, what are we going to do now? Well, I hadn't done a whole lot of this in my life. Never ever asked God to help me win. I always think He's got better things to do than that. But I started praying that whole inning. I just kept asking. I said, God, you've led me to this point right here. Don't let me mess this thing up. I said, if we lose because we're not good enough, I'll handle it. I love these kids like they're my own kids. And so we're talking. They score a run. Then we get a strikeout of a pinch hitter who we're actually behind in the count 3-1. And my pitching coach looks at me, and Abe can relate to this as well, okay? 3-1 count, bases loaded, 1 out. You walk the guy, you give up the lead. All right? Lo and behold, my pitching coach looks at me and goes, you okay with me so I'm throwing a slider here? I'm going, oh my God. You know, sliders are way harder to guide over the plate than a fastball. So I said, you sure? He said, yep. I said, then let's go. And my kid, Bobby Holmes, threw back-to-back back foot sliders to this cat and strikes him out. And then we get a fly out to left field. Tie game, bottom of the ninth, we come to bat. I'm still standing there on the end of the dugout. I told my pitching coach, I said, get them all down to the other end of the dugout. I said, I need 30 seconds. And I'm still praying, man, the whole time. I said, God, your will, God. Whatever it is you believe, God, that needs to happen is your will. You carry it out. I said, don't let me make a bad decision here. Help me choose my words. That's all I ask you. I swear to you, as I'm standing here, some of you have heard me say this before. I went down, got off the steps to the top of the dugout, went down into the dugout, and the other kids are about from me to where Les is over there. And it was like this weight of some sort just comes to my shoulder right here. And it's like, this is what you say. Call Marks and Paez over. Those were my 2 hitters coming up next. My leadoff guy and my number 2 hitter. And so this is what you tell them. And I proceeded to look Anthony Marks. I don't know if you ever see this guy. He's about coach's size over there with a beard and these steel-piercing eyes. That's this guy, he should have been a 6'6" middle linebacker. This guy, he was unbelievable, the most competitive person I may have ever met. I looked at Marksy and I said, you know how much I love you? He said, yes, sir, Coach, I love you too. I said, this is what's going to happen, son. I said, I don't know the route you're going to get there, but I said, you're going to get to first base safely. And I said, on the first pitch, I said, everyone's expecting us to bunt. I said, for 4 years, you and I have talked about not how many bases we steal, but can we steal the one that matters? The one in a game that changes the game. I said, son, you've waited your whole life for this moment. Go get it done. First pitch, best steal time ever. Guy hitting behind him, Paez, was a 3rd-round draft pick. Very, very good player. One of our best players. He hated to bunt. Hated to bunt. He heard me say everything to Marksy, and I said, Mikey, I got like this close to her face. So, our eyes are like locked. You can just lock into the pupils of each other's eyes. And I said, Paez, I said, I love you, right? He said, Coach, I love you so much. And I said, this is what we're going to do. He said, no, Coach. He said, I already got it. I'm going to lay down the best bunt I've ever laid down to get Marks to third. And I put my arm around him. I said, Not this time, Marksy. Paez. I said, when he gets there to second, I believe in you this much, son. I think you're the best hitter in the country, and you're going to be the guy that puts the swing on the ball to send us to Omaha. You go up there and look for a pitch to hit. Marks walks on a 3-2 high fastball, goes to first. We do all this stuff with a clock. How fast the catcher throws to second, the pitcher to the plate, and the runner, how fast he runs. Well, Anthony Marks on his steal break from first base to the time he touches the bag at second is a 3.19. That's like, there's 1% of 1% in the country that can run like that. That was incredible, unbelievable. Paez took a ball for ball one. Pitch number 2 is a hanging slider, and they were expecting us to bunt again because that's our MO, that's who we are. And so the third baseman's in on the edge of the grass, a couple of steps. Paez hits a ground ball, goes 1 bounce, 2 bounces, and the third was over the guy's head, down the line. Honest to God, I tell you what, from that moment on, I can't really tell you what happened. I was like, I almost came close to outrunning him to home plate, to be very honest with you. I'm whining him. I probably should have had rotator cuff surgery. I was whining him so hard at third base to get him home. The elation of that moment in my life, I should say the national championship was that. But I'll be honest with you, I had no idea we would win a national championship. The elation of that moment as a coach was the most incredible elation I've ever experienced in my life. A whole lifetime of chasing something and actually getting a chance to achieve it. I thought my real close time with God and my relationship as it had grown, I thought that was kind of just some surreal moment that I felt like he and I had together, and I thought, okay, well that's probably it. Well, it actually came to surface again. Is it crazy? We get in the championship series against Arizona and we lose game 1. And after all the press conference stuff, I go walking in our locker room. In our locker room, all the guys are there, the coaches are there. And you know, their heads are down. They're just defeated. You could hear each one of them breathe. I told them, I said, guys, I'll be back here. Just give me 2 or 3 minutes. I went in my locker room, never done this in my life. I got on my hands and knees in front of my locker. I prayed to God. I said, you answered my prayer a couple weeks ago. I said, I need you to talk to me again. I need to find the words to let these kids know how much I love them. Win, lose, or draw isn't about winning. But I also need a plan, God. And we walk in that room with a plan that they know will give them success if they execute it. I said, just help me. That's all I ask. Guide me. Make the words come out of my mouth that need to come out. I walked in that locker room, and the very first thing I did, because there had not been a hand on my shoulder at that point in time, I'm standing there like I'm standing in front of you, trying to think, what in the world do I say? Where are you, God? Where where are you? I'm waiting. Give me some wisdom here. Help me right now, please. Get anything. So I told him, I said, let's spend the next 5 minutes, because I think this is something that's really important. I said, I want each of you to look to your left and to your right and across the room. I want you to eyeball each guy. I said, lock pupils to pupils. Communicate through your eyes to each guy on this team. Let them know when you see them how you feel about them. We did that. I actually did it for like 7 or 8 minutes. I told them, I said, gentlemen, tomorrow If we're not successful, within 24 hours, we will have landed on the tarmac at Myrtle Beach, and we will have gone our separate ways, and chances of us ever being in the same place ever again in the same moment, all together, as people who care about each other, probably won't ever happen again. So don't miss an opportunity that you're going to have tomorrow to put every single thing you got in this thing. And as I'm talking, I feel that same hand again on my shoulder. And my assistants all tell me, said, we all thought you were nuts about what you said in Louisiana, but when you said this and how it played out, you made complete believers out of us. And I think out of the majority, if not everyone on our team, became real believers. Because what came out of my mouth was, we had like 6 baseballs sitting right here on the table. So I went up and grabbed one. I walked over to our All-American reliever, a guy named Mike Morrison. And he'd been a 1-inning, 2-inning guy all year long. First team All-American, had like a .7 ERA for the year. Dude was really good. I walked over to Mike. I said, you know what, Mike? I said, I need to ask you to be something you haven't been all year. I said, I need you to be the guy that starts that game tomorrow. You're our best guy. You're the guy we have the greatest faith in. If we're going to lose, everyone in this room wants to lose playing behind you. And I said, I need 100 of your best pitches you've ever thrown, Mike. I said, you got to get us through the 6th inning. I said, you just got to get it done, son. And I handed him the ball. And walked over with another ball to a guy named Bobby Holmes. I said, Bobo, I said, when Mo gets done, I said, I'm coming out there and I'm going to give you the ball. And the 2 of you are the only 2 guys that are going to pitch tomorrow. We're going to win or lose based on whether or not the 2 of you can get it done. Went over and grabbed the 3rd ball. Walked over to a guy named Andrew Beckwith. Call him Dapper. I said, Dap, you've already won 2 games, thrown 2 complete games in the College World Series. I don't need a complete game, championship game. I need you to get us to the 7th inning if you can. Because I know you're going on 2 days short rest and 3rd time out. I said, I don't expect you to be Superman. I said, but I need you to get us to that point, son. And I said, contrary to what you're going to tell me right now, I said, when I come and get you, there are going to be guys all over the bases. They're going to have a chance to take the lead. I walked back over to Bobby Holmes and I handed him another ball. I said, Bobo, whatever you got left in that arm, son, when Dapper's done, you got to get us to the 7th inning. And took the 3rd ball, the last ball in the bucket. I took it over to a guy, Alex Cunningham. Guy never relieved a game, been a starter. Been 42 straight games, he's been a starter. I walked over and handed AC the ball. I said, son, you're going to be the guy that throws the last pitch to win the College World Series for Coastal Carolina University. You might not think that's really all that telling. But again, I defer to Abe. He'll understand how huge this is. Mike Morrison threw 106 pitches. Bobby Holmes came in and threw 2 1/3 innings of shutout baseball, and we win 5-4, game 2. The next day, Dapper goes 6 2/3 innings. Bases are loaded with 1 out. I bring Bobby Holmes out of the bullpen. He strikes 2 guys out back to back. 7th inning, Cunningham goes out. First time he's ever relieved in his career. Picks up the save and strikes the last guy out with the winning runs at 2nd and 3rd. All you have to do is watch TV. Watch the Yankees and the Astros and how unpredictable that little white ball and how many things can happen for me to predict basically the innings and the times and the number of pitches. Anyone that doesn't think that there's a correlation between that and my faith and the things that were going on there, you'll never convince me or my team that there wasn't a huge part of that going on. Because in my life, the greatest part of being a coach has been that since that moment in time, I've probably gotten to talk 600-700 times. And I thank God every time. I tell everyone how inspirational that experience was and my opportunities, how exponentially that has grown in our locker room and who we are and what we are. And it's the lives that I touch that matter. I know that Coach over there, he doesn't realize how much he actually touched my life, and as I got older, how much I was disappointed in myself that I never became the guy that I probably could have been. Wasn't because of him. He was the right guy. And I want to make sure that those opportunities don't get missed in people in this program. And when you go back and look, all that red dirt that's around this part of the country, it's in my heart, it's in my soul, it is everywhere. I take this place with me everywhere I go. And this is one of the greatest honors I'll ever get as the people in my hometown, people I grew up with, lived with, that directly affected my life, think enough of me to put me in their Hall of Fame. And I want to thank you very, very much.
I got you. I got you.